Shalom. Before I begin, I want to give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua, Ba'ashem Chakmadash, and the bonus to the apostles and others, great millstone. And shalom to the IGM teaching this word throughout the four corners in true sincerity. Back another lesson through the spirit by Ba'ashem Yahushua. And I want to be edifying this unto the elect of Ba'ashem Yahushua. Alright, the topic of this lesson, or before I get into the topic, I forget, true name of God, alright, is Yahweh, which means he is or he exists. Alright, the name of his son, who the world calls Jesus, that's not his name. It's Yahweh Shai, which means he saves or he delivers. Alright, Yahweh Shai. Alright, so Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. Alright, that Bahashem just means in the name. So Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, those are the names that the name, I should say, that we call on. Alright, that the Israelites, the names that the Israelites were given, to call upon, like in the times of Egypt. Alright, the name was given Yahweh. Okay. Alright, who are the true Israelites, the so-called blacks, Latinos and Native Americans are the true chosen people of the scriptures. It's not them, small hats. Alright, Goldilocks, dark, small hat, dark suit, niggas. Alright, those ain't the people. Okay, those are Edomites. Okay, namely called Amalek. Those are Amalekites, I should say. Alright, but the topic of this lesson is really going into how the earth, is constantly at war because the true, rulers are not ruling. And when I say the true rulers, I'm talking about, us, the so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans. Alright, we're in the time of war now, dealing with, it's like once again, we're in the season or a time of war, with the dealing with these different nations because we're not ruling the earth. Okay, and you may think so, that is not true, but that is what the scriptures say. When we get into the land, how there won't be, wars, anymore. It's like, when we get into rulership, there won't be wars, nation running against each other anymore. Okay, and to prove that to you, this is Isaiah, the 2nd chapter. Alright, starting at 1, because you got to start at 1. It says, the word that Isaiah, the son of Amos, saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem. And it shall come to pass in the last days. So this is a, future prophecy, that the mountain of the Lord Yahweh's house shall be established in the top of the mountains, and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow into it. Right, so what is this talking about? Alright, in the last days, when these nations get taken down, and Yahushua's kingdom gets set up. Alright, and the election, that governing body, we will be, at the top, above, these different nations. Okay, and it says these nations will flow into it. Alright, a precept that I'm thinking of is Isaiah 9:6. It says, for unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulders, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, the Mighty Power, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. And we know this is talking about Yahweh Shai, because he is the Prince of Peace. Hence why when we start ruling and he sets up his, his kingdom, there won't be, wars. There may be, a little, rebellion from Esau, from these nations. But at the end of the day, they're going to learn, our ways. And it's going to talk about in Isaiah the 2nd chapter that I, brought up. It's like, once again. Okay, but once we start ruling, there won't be any more wars. You don't have to worry about, your town, or your home, getting bombed. You don't have to worry about that. Unless you're being wicked. Then you're going to have to judge you. All right. You know, talking to the heathens, because all the Israelites in the kingdom are going to be perfected with new bodies and a new covenant being within our inward parts. So we won't have to worry about that. But these different heathens, they're going to have to learn the way. All right. It says, of the increase of his government and peace, there shall be no end. So peace, there won't be an end of peace. All right. Because like the scripture say, when the righteous, in Proverbs 29, right quick, 29:2, Proverbs 29:2 says, when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. All right, why they're rejoicing? All right, because they're not going through any type of, you know, tribulation or turmoil or suffering. Okay, like, you know, like these people do now in America and really throughout the four corners of the earth, people are mourning of the condition of the earth. The rulers, they're complaining about the rulers not ruling correctly. You know, their sons and their daughters are dying in wars. People are getting drafted, etc. Price of food is too high. Gas is too high. You don't have to worry about that in the kingdom. All right. Because we're not going to rule in a wicked fashion. All right, the reason the earth is in the condition it's in is right here. It says, but when the wicked bear rule, the people mourn. So there's mourning because of the wicked. Okay, who is the wicked? All right, Esau, Edom. And that's the so-called white men, the Caucasians. All right, because they're the ones in the power seat. All right, that's an undeniable fact. All right, who's truly ruling the world are these so-called, you know, Caucasian, so-called white people, which are known as the Edomites. Okay. All right, then the time of the C-19, who decided, you know, to basically shut down the earth. All right, it was Edomites, it was crackers, Jake. You know, it's crackers. They decided to do that. Okay, Slovakia. I don't know why it's not. Yeah, they decided to shut down the earth. All right. What another precept? Job 9:24. Quick. Job 9:24. It says, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covered the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? So the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. All right. So the earth, the rulership of the earth is given unto Esau, Edom. All right. It's given unto Esau, Edom. Okay. Because people be like, oh, no, it's not. You know, you be like, oh, they don't really know. You do know. You just don't want to admit it. All right. You know, speaking to these Edomites, these crackers, they don't want to admit it. All right. But back in Isaiah 9. All right. And 7. It says, of the increase of his government and peace, there shall be no end upon the throne of David and upon his kingdom, to order it and to establish it with judgment and with justice. Right. There is no justice or judgment, you know, here in America. All right, let's get that word. All right, when you go into that word in Isaiah 9 and 7, I'm reading it again too. It says, of the increase of his government and peace, there shall be no end upon the throne of David and upon his kingdom, to order it and to establish it with judgment and with justice from henceforth even forever. The zeal of the Lord Yahweh of hosts will perform this. All right. And when you go into that word, I'm going to judgment and justice. Like I said, in judgment, it says active deciding case. It says sentence. It says justice. It says proper, right. Okay. It says proper, fitting, measure, fitness, custom, manner. You know, plan. Strong's definition says properly. Okay, this is how we gonna be ruling properly. All right. This devil Esau, you know, don't know what the fuck he's doing. All right. So when we get in the rights, when we you know get into the ruling seat or ruling the earth, all right, there's gonna be a immediate, you know, difference. Immediate difference. All right, because even in Proverbs 11:21, it says, no, 21, sure. It says, not 21. I know it's here. The Proverbs 11:10, it says, when they go well, the righteous, the city rejoiceth. All right, and when the wicked perish, there is shouting. So, all right, I mean, I know the whole city celebrates when the godly succeeds. See that? they shout for joy when the wicked die. So immediate difference is gonna be shown when we start ruling, the earth. Okay, God said we're gonna establish it with judgment. All right, so we're gonna establish it with judgment. All right, in the proper order of how the Lord wants the earth to be ruled, because the Lord don't want the earth to be in this condition. That's why He's gonna take Esau, out of the way. Esau was never supposed to have a permanent rulership. All right, Scripture talk about how he was let for a little season, how he has bounds that he cannot pass. That's why even now you see prices of things going up, the economy is failing, people are complaining. We're about to go into World War III, etc. It's because he's not the man for the job. All right, and when you go into that word justice as well, when you go into that word justice, it says righteousness. So we're gonna rule the earth in righteousness. All right, justification, righteousness of the Most High, and prosperity. All right, the earth is gonna be prosperous under the rulership of the Israelites. All right, but back to Isaiah 2 and 2. And this shall come to pass in the last days, that the mountain of the Lord Yahweh's house shall be established in the top of the mountains, and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow into it. And many people shall go and say, Come ye, and let us go up to the mountain of the Lord the mountain of the Lord Yahweh, to the house of the God of Jacob, and He will teach us of His ways, and we will walk in His paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the law and the word of the Lord Yahweh from Jerusalem. So, all right, because they're gonna be rejoicing and be, what's the word? Happy, all right, or willing to go to us, all right, is to learn the laws and statutes, commandments. We're gonna have to, teach, like how you have the Constitution, the law. We're gonna have to tell these heathens how to, do, certain things. Cause it's not gonna be no heathen in the kingdom. They just, worship idols. Nah, that's over. That's done with. All right, that's confusion in the earth. That's how you know that to another point as well, how you know that the Amalekites are not chosen, because you have all types of gods, being served here on the planet Earth. Not even just America, the planet Earth. You have all types of idols and people doing witchcraft and shit like that. It's not supposed to be like that. All right, and it says, and he shall judge amongst nations, and shall rebuke many people, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. O house of Jacob, come ye, and let us walk in the light of the Lord Yahweh. So there you go. All right, circling back to the lesson, or not even circling back, but hitting the topic, how there won't be any war. All right, in the kingdom of Yashar Allah. Okay, the earth is gonna be a paradise, once again, because this ain't right. Everybody know this ain't right. All right, you can feel it. This not justice, because righteousness is not being put forth in earth. All right, once righteousness gets put in earth, then it's gonna be peaceful. Okay, but this kingdom is being ruled like it's a rental, and that's how Esau's doing it. It's a rental. He knows it. Scripture says time is short. All right, so he's trying to he's doing any and everything to it, because it's not really his. He doesn't have a connection or a care for it. Okay, that's why he poisons the air and the sea and the animals, and do all sorts of weird ass experiments to the ground and people and just everything. All right. With that alone, this lesson was edifying. I don't give our praises to Yahweh Ba'Shem Al Shah Ba'Shem Chakwadash and the Barn City Apostles, and others great millstone. Shalom to the